This is the story about the old Vulture mine in the town of Vulture City. This old town and mine is just a short drive south of Wickenburg, Arizona. Before I begin today's video, I want to let you know that I went to the old Vulture mine and town site. The old mine is open to the public and you can tour this mine site for yourself. It's just a self-guided tour and you walk around at your own pace. I took a bunch of photos while I was there and I will show them with some explanations at the end of the video, so you'll want to make sure that you stay till the end. Also, this whole area is close to some other mines that I have done videos on, and I will link those videos in the description box below as well as at the end of this video. Now, let's get on with the story. It was in 1863 that an old prospector by the name of Henry Wickenburg discovered a quartz seam with gold and started to mine this outcrop by himself. Henry Wickenburg was an old 49er from the California gold rush and made it big there. After making his fame and fortune in California, he headed into the Arizona desert looking for his next find. Little did he know at the time that this outcrop would become the famous Vulture mine that would end up becoming one of the richest gold mines in all of Arizona. It wasn't long before others heard about this strike, and soon a small town was built, and by 1870 the city of Vulture, Arizona had about 200 residents. Of course, a lot of folks with the wrong intentions arrived in town to work the mines. One of these fellows was Jacob Waltz, also known as the Lost Dutchman. There's people out there who have been looking for the Lost Dutchman mine for years. Anyhow, it is rumored that Jacob Waltz's Lost Dutchman mine was actually the Vulture mine because of all the gold he had stolen while working there. In fact, even though the Vulture mine was one of the richest mines in Arizona at the time, it never made a profit for Henry Wickenburg or any of the investors. It was a notorious mine for theft as workers high-graded the ore for themselves. Charles Lane, a miner who owned a mine in the Harquahala district over by Siloam, Arizona, had the same problem with sticky-fingered miners. He ended up pouring 200-pound gold bars, so it made it practically impossible to steal any bullion. Some folks say that old Henry should have done the same thing, and that way his mine would have ended up with showing at least some sort of a profit. During the heydays of operations, the mine from the outside looked first class. In fact, the mine and mill was state-of-the-art for the day. Its shaft went down over 2,000 feet following that quartz seam of gold. The higher-grade ore was ground with an 80-stamp mill. Lower-grade ore was run through a ball mill and the ground ore was then run through cyanide tubs to leach out the gold. As time went on, the town grew to almost 5,000 residents. It had everything: saloons, brothels, stores, and even a sheriff with its own jail. Outside on the edge of town was the infamous hanging tree, where about 18 of the town's residents met their fate for various crimes like rape, murder, and theft. Lots of others died of hard deaths there too. It was a tough town. In fact, it was a real Wild West town in its day. Even though the mine produced millions in gold, Henry died a poor, broke man. Old Henry Wickenburg himself died a hard death as he ended his own life with his own gun. Soon after, the mine closed down, and the city turned into a ghost town. The old mine and deposit was later sold to a fellow named Benjamin Phelps, who represented a group of investors that eventually organized under the name of the Vulture Mining Company. The Vulture mine ran until around 1942 when it was shut down due to infractions with the law. Over the years, it is said that the Vulture mine produced 340,000 ounces of gold and around 250,000 ounces of silver. However, the amount was probably much higher. As mentioned earlier, this mine was known for having sticky-fingered mine workers, so who really knows how much gold was not accounted for? Now, as I mentioned earlier at the beginning of the video, I have some pictures of the mine and the old town, so bear with me as I try to remember what each photo is about, and I'll give you sort of a walkthrough of the site. When you first check in, One of the first buildings you will see is the old power station building. This large engine here is what ran the generator and powered the town site as well as the mine. I'm not sure exactly how much horsepower this engine has, but references state it produced around 640 horses. The engine itself stands over 10 feet tall and is over 15 feet long. Here is the head frame for the main shaft of the Vulture mine. The shaft drops to a depth of 2,100 feet at a perfect 35% incline. You can see the ore cart towards the top. Going by old photos, this is most likely a rebuild of the original one, as photos show the original being pretty much collapsed. Here we're taking another look at it from the opposite side. Notice the hoisting drawworks in the background. This is the head frame for the Nichols raise. This is a 170-foot raise to the 135-foot level. The map drawing on the plaque also shows over 20 miles of underground tunnels. It also mentions this is one of the best preserved shaft raises in Arizona. One of the more well-preserved buildings at the site is the old Wells Fargo building. Being built out of stone and not wood like so many other old buildings, this building was right across from the assay office. Another real interesting bit to see is inside the old assay building. You can see the furnaces and all the other laboratory items they used to use. They say the Keller scale was accurate to 1/1,000,000th of a gram and could weigh up to 1,200 ounces. They also mentioned that they used to do around 40 assays every day. Right next door to the assay lab was the bullion vault. This is where all the poured gold bars would be stored until they were shipped out. It was just a concrete cellar in the floor. Like most old mine sites, there's a lot of old trucks and other junk sitting around here. Inside some of the old buildings are a lot of old antique stuff. I can't seem to find any of the pictures, but there's also a pretty nice outdoor blacksmith shop. Here's an overall video shot of the Vulture mine site. This will give you an idea of what the entire place is like. The property is privately owned and the owners are slowly rebuilding it. You can go to their website and see the times they are open. I noticed that they also offer a blacksmithing course on their website, and because the place is supposedly haunted, they do have something called flashlight ghost tours. Remember how I said that Henry killed himself with his own gun? That's sort of the well-known story or tale about the man. However, there are those who stated that never happened. Some would argue that old Henry did not commit suicide but probably died from dementia or maybe depression, and that he was far from being penniless. Also the story about Jacob Waltz. Some state that he never was at that mine but was only seen in the actual town of Wickenburg. So who really knows the real truth of either of these men? Well, that's it for this video. I hope you enjoyed this short story about the old Vulture mine. Please like, share, and subscribe so we can continue to bring you more old, lost mine stories.